Hello everyone, my name is Alexander Thorns, but you can call me Sasha, and welcome to my Generation 2 Normal-type guide. Recently on the channel I completed a Pokemon Gold Mono Normal-type Nuzlocke challenge, using only Pokemon that were introduced in Generation 2. After its completion, it got me thinking who was the best and worst normal-type Pokemon that I used, so I decided to create this ranking/guide for normal types. To give you all a little understanding on how to use these little guys if you ever attempt a Gold, Silver or Crystal Nuzlocke of your own. And yes, just like my Bug-type guide, this guide will be exclusively about Generation 2. However, since there are 13 fully evolved normal types introduced to Generation 2, I'm going to turn this list into a top 5 and simply glaze through the Pokemon that didn't reach the top 5 seeds. The normal typing isn't the best or the worst typing in the game, they are the most common ones, but usually normal typed Pokemon will have average stats. That is compensated by a large move pool, and they have also a problem in lacking in a dual type department, especially in the early generations, as most normal types are solo typed, and the few that get the dual typing, usually they are part flying. That's not to say that there aren't any amazing normal types, but on average they are pretty, well, normal. Offensively and defensively, normal type isn't terrible, being immune to ghost types and only taking super effective damage from fighting, which is a decent defensive effectiveness, but in return normal type moves cannot deal super effective damage, and rock and steel type Pokemon resist the normal typing. This means that most of the time the damage is neutral, being solely reliant on your stats versus the Pokemon you are facing. With all of that said and done, let's get this guide going, starting with the bottom of the list. These are the worst of the worst. Furret. These stats are deplorable, speed being the only salvageable stat you can take, but with a paper-thin defenses and offensive stat that can hurt a dead baby, this furry friend is just terrible. The move pool is actually decent, not gonna lie, and given that you catch it super early, it's got some use in the early game up until Whitney, when it becomes Death Fodder because those stats catch up to it very fast. Joining Furret we have the other early route normal type in Noctowl. And this guy suffers from the wrong stats syndrome, because until Generation 3, normal and flying are physical types, meaning every normal and flying move deal damage based on your attack. And guess who's normal and flying? Noctowl, and guess how much base attack this guy has? 50. But maybe we can ignore stab, since this guy can't use it anyways, and lean into the special damage. Yeah, nope. The best you get is Confusion and Thief as special moves, unless you want to play the Hypnosis Roulette to connect with Dream Eater. Good luck with that. But hey, its bulk isn't terrible, I mean 100 base HP is pretty good, and with 96 special defense it can take some spells, and this is the only good thing that I can say about this owl. So, you wanna use it? Toxic Stall is the best I can give you. That is literally the only recommendation I can give you, because Toxic Protect, Double Team and Fly is the only setup that I can come up with to this thing. That really pisses me off, because I honestly actually love Noctowl. To this boring batch I'm joining in Apom, because Game Freak had no idea what they were doing with this guy. Its stats are sad, to say the least. This moveset is confusing, it learns a lot of offensive moves, but his offensive stats are atrocious, so you try to lean into the support side of this ugly monkey to learn that your best bet is Agility Button Pass, to transfer a speed boost. You could be cheeky and add Curse to the mix, using Agility to bypass the speed drop that Curse involves, and this way you could use Button Pass and transfer a +1 in attack, +1 defense and +1 speed stats to another Pokemon. But in order for you to do that, you are banking on Apom surviving more than one attack, and with those defenses, that's a pretty hard gamble, let me tell you. You can get it pretty early after the second gym, so, you know, that's something. And the last Pokemon on the bottom, being the diamond amongst the shit, is Dunsparce. His stats leave a lot to hope for, but it can take some hits and its moveset isn't terrible, having a very fun strategy to work with, that being Paraflinch, as Dunsparce learns Glare and Headbutt, which can basically immobilize opponents. If you get lucky, this strategy gets a lot better in the later gens, as Dunsparce gets the Serene Grace ability, But in Generation 2 this isn't the thing, so the best you can do to round out the moveset is add Screech and some coverage moves, because you will soon learn that Dunsparce stats catch up to him very early, right around Morty. Plus, Dunsparce is very rare, so you either have to be really lucky with the 1% encounter, or you have to be playing some type of specific or restrictive rule set, just like I did with my Nuzlocke. So, unfortunately, into the bottom tier this guy goes. That's all for the worst of the worst. Now let's take a look at the borderline tier. This Pokemon barely didn't make it into the top 5, but still have something going on that makes them useful. Starting off is Smeargle. Side note, I absolutely despise this Pokemon. I hate its stats, I hate its gimmick, and I have no patience to deal with finding the right move so it can learn it from scratch. However, I have to man up and say that if you have the patience to use Smeargle's gimmick, it can be quite disruptive. However, in Generation 2, double batters aren't a thing, meaning in order for your Smeargle to learn to use Sketch, it has to be through a trainer or wild Pokemon. This is fucking awful to do. But if you have the patience, every setup moveset that you can wait is a possibility. I still don't like this Pokemon. On a more happy note, Miltank is here, and unfortunately for this Miltank, the offensive stats really drive the nail into its placement as a borderline, because it is the fastest normal type in Generation 2 with a respectable base 100 and some serious bulk to top it off, but the best moveset you can get on a Miltank is Body Slam, Milk Ring, Ill Bell and Curse, and you can swap Curse for any coverage move, but without setup, Miltank's damage falls short more often than not. But if you are using Curse, you will be sacrificing its bad stat in an exchange for a boost in attack and defense. So Miltank falls into this limbo where it needs just a little bit more for it to be really good, and Stantler falls into the same category, but unlike Miltank, Stantler actually has possibilities for movesets, because you can lean into his offensive moveset with Psychic, Earthquake, Stomp and a decent hidden power. It can actually do some damage, but I enjoy more of disruptive moveset in Stantler, as it learns Hypnosis and Confuse Ray, and to top that off with Stomp and Sand Attack or Double Team, you get a deer that can cause some serious disruption. And the last member of the borderline, we have Blissey. The bulkiest Pokemon in the game when it comes to special moves, because those defense numbers aren't protecting shit. But without a physical special split, a lot of types are physical, and Blissey can't take much punishment from physical moves. Her special defense is decent, his special attack isn't great, so an offensive Blissey will always fall short. But since her stall technique is impeccable and it has access to self-recovery with Soft Boil and Ill Bell, this is in fact the best borderline normal type in Generation 2. Now we have reached the top 5 seat, and to lead the charge we get Togetic. A Pokemon that I absolutely love, that just barely beat Blissey in its own game, as to me Togetic is a better Toxic Staller than Blissey. Let me explain. Togetic has a better all-around bulk with 85 defense and 105 special defense. Although its HP stat could use a little help, this tiny fairy can take a punishment, something that I actually showed you in detail in my Nuzlocke, you should really watch it. So, neither Blissey nor Togetic get much in the defensive department, but Togetic gets a move that, in my opinion, brings its Toxic Stall to another level. Fly. With Toxic, Protect, Sweet Kiss and Fly, Togetic can always guarantee that you get a KO. You use Toxic and go into Protect, then you just connect with a Sweet Kiss and alternate between Protect and Fly, which always gives you 2 turns of leftovers and toxic damage. Combine that with the fact that Togetic is a guaranteed encounter compared to Blissey's very late location and rarity, and to me Togetic just barely gets ahead of Blissey, getting the number 5 seed. However, I could usually understand if you want them to swap places. At number 4 we have Gramble. And this little bulldog is great, with an impressive base attack stat of 120 and an average bulk. This guy can hit like a truck, getting access to moves like Shadow Ball, Sludge Bomb that are both physical in Generation 2, Headbutt, Return, Hyper Beam can also be very annoying, and Charm and Tail Whip can give it an edge. All of this is amazing and will make Gramble a great Pokemon, if it didn't have that speed stat. Because at 45 in this generation, Trick Room isn't a thing, so a slow Pokemon is just that, a slow Pokemon. It will always take damage before moving, but Gramble has got a decent poke, and is a fairly early encounter, although a very rare one, because it's another 1% encounter and you can get it right before the 4th gym. And that's why it is in 4th place. Starting now with the podium, and we have Ursaring, and this huggable bear is just a better version of Gramble, with 130 base attack stat and some very decent bulk. This guy can tear through teams. Having access to Trash by level up, a very good move that gets even better with a Hell Bitter Berry, but its arsenal doesn't stop there, as Earthquake, Hyper Beam and Return are also part of its arsenal, and with a special attack stat that can barely be decent, its special side can save you in a pinch. Just like mine did against Lance's Dragonite. But just like Gramble, its speed puts a stop in its destruction. It is just too low to be reliable, so most of the time you will be relying on a Quick Lop Rock, which is why this bear gets above Gramble, but not any further. 3rd place for it. Coming in at number 2, we have Porygon 2. I mean, no surprises there. The best normal type special attacker in Generation 2. It has a great special attack stat and a decent attack, very good bulk, and a move pool that gets a lot better in Pokemon Crystal, giving it access to Thunderbolt and Ice Beam. Imagine that in Pokemon Gold and Silver. But even in the other games, Psychic, Tri-Attack, Recover and a decent hidden power, and you got a perfect moveset. Thunder and Blizzard are also available, but you have to play with around its accuracy. Porygon 2 can take a hit and deal some good damage back, and with access to self-healing, it is one of the best Pokemons to abuse the leftovers item. All of this is great, but I have to place it at number 2 because its acquisition method is kinda shit. You can only get Porygons 2 pre-evolution, Porygon at the game corner in Celadon in the Kanto region, and you have to spend 9,999 coins to acquire it. And this is quite the task. And it being at the very late phase in the game doesn't help, plus you have to allow trade evolutions to evolve Porygon into Porygon 2, so that's another downside to this man-made Pokemon. So, in my opinion, the best normal-type Pokemon that was introduced in Generation 2 for Nuzlocke in the Generation 2 original games, I need to emphasize that a lot, is Girafarig. With a decent distribution of its stats, you might believe this Pokemon is nothing special, but Girafarig has several good things going for it. First, it's the only normal type with dual typing that isn't flying, imagine that. As Girafarig is part Psychic type, that gives it a stat boost in its Psychic moves, as it learns Psybeam by level up, and the TM for Psychic is readily available at Saffron City. It also learns Crunch by level up, and Dark is a special type in this generation, backed up by a decent special stat of 90. Its physical damage isn't terrible, being a barely decent 80, and with access to Stomp, Return, Earthquake, Shadow Ball and Iron Tail, Girafarig has got some options. Its speed stat is very good compared to the other competitors on this list, and it also has access to Agility Button Pass to support its team. But what made me choose Girafarig over Porygon 2 to be the first place? And while I will be the first one to admit, Porygon 2 is simply a better Pokemon. However, in a Nuzlocke scenario, the encounter method can be very important and can make or break a good Pokemon. And for Girafarig, it is readily available at Route 43, being very common at a 30% and changing the route with two of the most common Pokemon in Pidgeotto and Flaffy, two Pokemon with a very early encounter scenario, and this to me is what gives it the edge over Porygon 2. Porygon 2 might be a better Pokemon with better stats, but the all-aroundness of Girafarig and the fact that you can encounter it so early and so easily, to me makes it a better Pokemon to use in a Nuzlocke style. And that's my list / guide to all the normal type Pokemons that were introduced in a Generation 2. Do you agree with me? Leave your thoughts in the comments and remember to subscribe for more Nuzlocke challenges, and guys, please, never stop being yourselves and peace.